Hello.
That's
Yeah,
better.
if you hold it near you, we can hear
Yeah.
you.
Okay. I unplugged it for a second, but welcome everybody to Temple Aaron's Seeking Sacred Understanding, and we have an incredible guest tonight, Hannah Sperber, and she's going to tell us about her life story, which I've learned a little bit about, and it is well, a little bit I've heard is incredible. And thank you for being here, everybody. We do these about once a month, as well as Zoom sometimes on Shabbat. So thank you for being here. It's wouldn't be much of an experience without all of you.
Yeah.
And Rabbi Joe has helped organize, as usual, tonight's guest. Would you like to say a few words
Yeah, thank you. It's
or
nice to
more?
see everybody. Hope we're all well. And thank you, Hannah, for joining us. It's wonderful to see you again.
Same here.
And it's a real honor to have you with us tonight. And it is, you're right, AC. It's going to be a very special dialogue because we have a very special human being with us who has lived through very dark periods of life. And in spite of that, in my dialogues and time with Hannah, I've seen that she's still a person who has come through and is able to see light and hope and beauty in life. But not only are you able to see life and beauty, Hannah, in life, but you also bring light and beauty and hope to life, which is a real tribute to who you are, and especially in light of what you've gone through. And I know we're all going to learn a tremendous amount about life, not only your life, but also life in general. And I'm really looking forward to this. And we have much to learn from you, and even from your name. And we'll find out as we go through how you chose this name in life. But your name, just for me up front in Hebrew, Hannah, it's it has the idea of giving, but it has the root word of grace in it. So it's a graceful giving, and you have a grace in life and a grace that you give to others in life. And it's a real blessing to know you and to have met you. And I'm really looking forward to learning from you tonight, not only about your life, but also about life. And the word rabbi in Hebrew means my teacher. And so I'm sure after tonight, we'll all be calling you rabbi because you will be teaching us.
Thank you very, very much, Rabbi. That's a lovely
Yeah.
introduction, and I'm overwhelmed with your introduction, with what you're saying about me, because I don't think I'm all that great. However, Hashem has helped me and put me into a spot that I never imagined that I would be in this my lifetime. So early on, as everyone knows by now, I had a very difficult childhood, being brought up in a Nazi home. My father originally was going to be a missionary in the Lutheran church, but when he met my mother and wanted to marry her, the church gave him an alternative to either marry her or be with us. You can't do both. And at that point, he got very upset. He left the church, married my mother, but he also left God at the same time, and that was devastating. He bought into the Nazi ideology and probably became a different person. Of course, I didn't know him before, uh, but ever since I remember my father, he was very cruel. He was not open and kind and loving or interested in it, never showed any interest in us children. It was only what he wanted us to do and in all the things that we did wrong. So and we were punished severely over nothing, over very minimal misbehaviors like spilling the milk or tripping over something, just normal things. But and he marked put marks on the wall on the wainscoting of a mark, when they were 10, we knew that we were going to get a beating, and we had to wait in the basement till he came ready. He came down, he was ready to beat us. And he didn't just beat us with his hand, he beat us with a garden hose, and we had deep welts from that. And it was psychologically and physically very, very difficult and very painful for us. He also wanted to make us watch him kill our family dog. And we all know we want to protect our children from seeing things like that, but something he just got turned off and got into that Nazi ideology and thought that was the right thing to do, obviously. However, later in life, I have to say that now, because after I left Germany at the age of 19, my parents had four more children, and the younger children always said that their father was very kind and very good to them and very caring. And then towards the end of his life, he did a lot of crying. Nobody knew why he was crying, but I'm assuming maybe he had remorse. Maybe he felt bad about what he did do. So, we don't know. I happened to be there. I went there because I knew he was close to passing. So I went to Germany, was at his bedside, and I happened to be the one, and my younger sister, the two of us that were the most rejected ones, were at his bedside when he passed. My older sister, who was the idol of the family, had gotten in, but it was too hard for her to be there. She was in Germany already, but she didn't come to the hospital until after he passed. That was just but we were there, and I was watching him gasping for breath and choking, and I kept on getting the nurses trying to get him to suction the mucus. Then they said it's worse to do the mucus, but I felt like I was choking, and in spite of all the treatments and the abuse, I still had a feeling for my father in some ways. I always tried to do something to make him feel proud of me, but those were the early years. And both of my parents convinced me that I'm not able to ever do anything for myself. I will not be able to support myself. I am clumsy. They always said I have two left hands. And if you hear that over and over, you believe it, and then you get very self-conscious. And I was extremely self-conscious. I also had a speech impediment. I couldn't get my words out right when I spoke German. I stuttered, and so I was just maybe a Schlemazel, I don't know what, but I wasn't feeling well about myself, except I did pray to God. I didn't know anybody but God. There was not the only, but the only thing I could pray to, because we had no family that would come by, because my father he kept us very separated. We couldn't talk to anybody else. So I felt close, and I would pray to God to help me get out of there, right? Yes, out of all that. So, but yeah, and time went by, and then the bombing started in Germany, because the Allies, needed to win the war. So we heard the bombs, we heard the whistling of the bombs, the fires, and the alarms.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, right, it was very scary, and we could tell by then how close a bomb would be hitting, because once it started whistling, if it stopped very quickly, we knew it was close by, and the explosion was very large. And one night, a bomb hit right in front of our house and leveled the house. Which meant that all the walls, all the ceilings, everything fell down. We were in a bedroom in the basement, one out of 4 rooms, and all the rooms had fire in them except for the one that we were in. Now, it was my mother and my 2 sisters and me. And I was under rubble. And my mother found me and dug me out. Otherwise, I would not have survived. I felt was close to choking, to suffocating. And but she did dig me out, and we got out, and with the help of some neighbors, we got out through a hole on the side of the wall. And then I had shrapnel in my head, and we needed to find a doctor, and we were new in the area, so it was not an easy thing. But the doctor gave us a place to stay, so we stayed with them for a few weeks till my father came back for the war, and then he realized that we needed to find a place. He needed to find a place for us children, and my parents both had large families, but nobody wanted to take us in. No, nobody from the immediate families, but an extended family member from my mother's side said they can take one person, one child, because they already had four of their own. And they picked me because maybe they felt sorry for me. I was the shyest, the skinniest, the shortest, everything that nobody would want. But there was a blessing for me to be there. And in a normal family, it was in a separate suburb of Nuremberg. I was born in Nuremberg, but we first lived on in the east suburb, and after the house was built, we lived in the west suburb, and that's the house that got bombed out. The reason we were able to get this house, because most people did not have houses in Germany at that time, is my father belonged to the Nazi Party, and he also worked for the Siemens company. Siemens company was part of the war machine. So all of that kind of worked in his favor. And we had this beautiful house, all beautifully furnished, lived only a couple of months and 3 months in it built before it got bombed. But then my two sisters were in a sort of a camp for children that didn't have a place to live. They were not orphans, but they were not with their parents either. And I lived with a family, so I was with them for about a year and a half, and they valued me. They talked to me. They gave me compliments. They gave me pride in myself, and I first in my life I felt that I'm worthy also. And when the war was over, close to being over, my father was going to pick me up. It was, but I wasn't. I really wasn't even crazy. I didn't even want to leave. I didn't want to go home. However, I went because that's what one had to do. So I went back to home, my family, and it was still wartime, and a lot of things happened. And during that time, I saw the slow-moving trains with passengers in them. There were freight trains. There were not passenger trains. And I remember asking my parents, what are these people doing in the train? They said, they're prisoners of war. And that's all I knew about that. So, yeah, but I knew nothing about Jewish people, about the Holocaust, about the atrocities that were going on, even that Nuremberg was a hotbed for that. But I was in the suburbs, and my parents didn't tell us anything. You know, you were not allowed to read newspapers, anything from a foreign country, no books from foreign countries, and no radio stations. If you got caught, you got sent to the concentration camps. And some of our neighbors got caught and were sent away. When they came back, they looked like ghosts and never said one word, never talked about it. So it was a scary, scary time. It was ruled by fear and terror. So yeah, we were not. It was not a normal life. However, when my parents thought that I'm not able, that I'm handicapped, that I'm not able to provide for myself, they sent me to a better school, which was my luck. And I took languages, and English was my favorite language. And when I spoke English, I didn't stutter any longer. I was able to talk, and I got a job later on. I got a job with the European Exchange Commission, and I was the one that spoke the best English. Some people asked me, "How do you say this? How do you say that?" And people would ask me how to put outfits together. I had a gift for colors and styles, so and I felt very good that I was able to recommend something that other people liked, that other people accepted, and it was good. So yeah, little by little, I got some confidence in myself, and then I met my husband to be, which I had no idea that he was going to be my husband.
Can I ask before we continue with your
Yes,
husband?
yes, please do.
Uh, I I want to just ask, and for others here too. This is a this is an open discussion.
Certainly.
We're learning. So if you have any questions, just put your little hand up, and we'll certainly shall take your questions. Uh, I took a few notes here. I'm very curious. You said that you had two sisters with you in Germany. Is that correct? And
Yes,
then four
yes, yes,
sisters or brothers after?
yes, yes. Three brothers and a sister after the war, right?
Did did you ever discuss with your own immediate sisters, and were they they weren't half sisters, the or half brothers later, right? They were the same mother.
The same mother and same father. Yes, they were my
Was there ever
siblings.
any discussion about what happened within the family among the children as you grew older?
No, not on their part. I wanted to know it, and they claimed uh, that my father was the younger ones claimed my father was a very good man and he was kind to them. My youngest sister, who was a year and a half younger, suffered from her trauma all of her life. She could never get over it. And my oldest sister, who was the idol of my parents, who was pampered and she was given dance lessons and they tried to show her off. And so she experienced things very, very different. She even had a, a picture of my parents getting married in her, excuse me, in her bedroom above her bed. And that's when I saw that my father had the Nazi armband, swastika armband on his wedding. And I said, "How can you do that?" I was shocked that how can you display this? But she said, that's our parents. What are you talking about? It didn't phase her. It didn't phase her. She never connected Jewishly. She wasn't interested. She wasn't curious about it. She would come and visit on Passover and bring a piece of bread, a loaf of bread.
Hmm.
She was just clueless, totally clueless. My younger sister was struggling on her own. She went into business, children's clothing, but she had a very difficult life. One child that was handicapped from birth, passed away at 2. Another child that had other problems. She died young. She died in her 50s of a heart attack, but she could not stand up for herself. She was in business, but she did not know how to fire people. She didn't have the strength to do some of the things that she needed to do. She had a hard life. Now the younger ones, well, my oldest brother was born in 45 at the end of the war, and he and then another three brothers and then a sister, but they are not interested. They're not interested. They don't want to talk about the Holocaust. They're not interested. They they live in their own life. They live in their own bubble. They live in their own world in the same area that they grew up in. So I'm the one that left, and then my older sister also went to the States. She asked me if I thought it was a good idea. She had an opportunity to come, and she went, and she came, and she married, and she had 3 children. But there was never a real closeness because their lifestyles were too different, and it seems like there was a sort of a competition, and I don't understand that. But yeah, we were cordial to each other, but we did not see each other. We lived in different states, so
Okay. Yeah,
Nancy
we
has
have a
a.
Nancy. Yeah, Nancy, it's great seeing you.
Hey, yeah, hi guys.
Say hello to
Hannah.
Rabbi.
Okay. Hannah,
hi.
I'm just so sorry you went through it. I'm just sorry. But what I wanted to ask you as you're telling your story, when you said your father was, I couldn't really get the timeline. Was it after you were born that after you were already around, that your father joined the party? I mean,
No,
did you see the
he
transformation?
he joined the party before we were born
Oh,
because
okay.
right before he got married. Excuse me. My parents told us they got married in 1933, but I did some research. They got married in 1934. It doesn't matter, but they wanted it to look better. But but no,
So, did you
okay.
feel, did you have any, as you grew up, and I know you were young, but did you have any feelings that he was under somebody else's power, like cultish, or did you just think that's who he is?
Uh, I just
Did you
thought
have
that's who
any
he is.
feeling like that?
Not no,
Did
I
you
did not. I did not. No, connect it to it. Could have been,
just
but
when?
he was just very, very strict and very cruel to us. He was very protective of my mother. He wanted to make sure that she doesn't have to work hard, and he wanted us kids to do whatever she wouldn't do. So, uh, and she was not a good housekeeper. She was not a bad person, I would say, but I think she was also part of the Nazi uh, ideology. She was gone a lot, and we never knew where she went. Even when I lived with a family, the extended family, she came there twice in 1.5 years, and nobody knew where she was. She didn't. And my sisters were in sort of a camp situation, and she didn't visit them either. So nobody really knows for sure where she was.
Did he ever talk to you specifically about uh, the Jews?
No,
It was
no.
just the whole package, the Nazi
Right. My,
package.
my my father never did say anything about it, and they didn't know. After I met my husband to be, I didn't know he was Jewish. He was a Holocaust survivor, was in the U.S. Army in Germany, spoke German, was in civilian clothing, and he was really a very charismatic person, and my parents liked him. And then about a half year into the relationship, he asked me, Henry asked me what religion I am. So I told him I'm Protestant. He said, "What do you think I am?" And I said, "Well, you're either Protestant or Catholic. What are you?" And then he said, "I could be a lot of things." And he mentioned Mormon, Buddhist,
Uh-huh.
and Jewish. I said, "Well, what do you mean Jewish?" So he says, "Why couldn't I be Jewish?" I said, "Well, there are no Jewish people." And that's exactly how I felt. I knew nothing about Jewish people. And he said, "Well, what do you think happened to the Jewish people?" I said, "Well, they're people of the Bible," because at that time I was 17 years old. It it's almost mind-boggling that I didn't know what happened. The Nuremberg trials were going on, but I heard about war crimes. I didn't know what the war crimes were.
But your father didn't specifically instill any kind of Jewish hatred in you. You just didn't
Not,
talk
not
about
intentionally, no. But
it.
after I found out that Henry was Jewish, I was searching for books or for any kind of information I wanted to know about Judaism. And after he left, I found a Jewish radio station, and I was listening to it. I also found a synagogue. That's another story. Uh, and when my father walked into the room and he heard me listening to a Jewish station, he says, "You are not going to bring this into this house. You already brought American music or whatever it was. You're not going to do this. I don't want this." If he wouldn't have known anything about Judaism or Jews, this wouldn't even have bothered him, or he wouldn't even have known that it was Jewish.
Hmm.
So yeah, so that was a shock to me, because I didn't really know, but little by little I figured out that he really had some animosity about that. But even after I told my parents that Henry's Jewish, they still liked him. They never said anything bad about him. However, after he went back to the States, his enlistment was over. I didn't know whether we'd ever see each other again. We wrote to each other. My parents said, if you marry him, it's not going to be an easy life. They tried to talk me out of it, but it didn't work.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it didn't work right. Yeah.
Thank you.
Right. Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure. Sure.
Yeah. So to go back a little bit to your schooling, because you were 17, you said, when you left Germany. Did I get that right?
No, I was 17 when I met Henry.
When you
I
met
was,
Henry,
yeah, I was
and then
19 when
he
I left
left.
Germany.
When
He
did he
left.
leave?
He left when I was 18, 17,
18.
about 18
Okay.
years. Yeah.
And so even in school, during the war, you never learned about Jews or any of the caricatures of Jews or the caricatures of Judaism at that time, because
Nothing.
in Germany, Judaism was by not only by regular pastors, but also by some of the greatest scholars in the Christian world. They would describe Judaism as spiritually desiccated, or it's is one another one spoke of the originality of Judaism was overcome by formalism and stifling legalism, and then of course the deicide, the Christ killers, and their connection with Satan, which is a common tragic mischaracterization about Judaism. You never learned about that in school. You never heard about those ideas about Jews, huh?
Not at all. However,
Wow.
the family that I lived with, I remember, and I just remember that recently because there was a picture book with drawings
Ah,
of, yeah, of a Jewish person with a huge nose and a
yeah.
cow hanging out upside down. But it didn't resonate with me. It didn't I didn't feel that Jews are bad. I just saw that, and that was it. Nobody told me about Jews being bad or Jews being should be killed or anything like that. Nothing at all. Except I do remember that the Faber-Castell family, which are the producers of these wonderful art pens that are still being made even now. Uh, that was they had a factory in the suburb that I lived with the extended family, and one of the men was married to a Jewish woman, and I remember that there was whispering about the Nazis wanted her out. They did not, even if they were elite. Their house was called a castle. It was a mansion, I would say, but it was called Schloss Faber, Faber Schloss, right? So they put graffiti on the walls and say Jewish pig and all those kind of things, and but it wasn't discussed. It wasn't discussed. I only heard whispers in the house. People were saying it out loud, and then and eventually the man divorced the woman, and she got a visa to leave. She went to another country, which they didn't kill her, but there was an issue about it. That's the only other thing about anything Jewish that I remembered. Except
And
him,
What
yeah.
did you think the war was about? Did you know anything? I'm sorry, I'm out of turn,
no,
but just
no, no, no,
it was during
absolutely.
the war. Did you have any concept of in high school or anything what they said the war was about?
It was about world domination, about the Germans being the superior race, and that part. I always thought that's a bunch of garbage, and I still resent it when people are saying, "Oh, it's made in Germany; it's got to be good." I think that I don't like to hear that. That's a stupid thing, yeah, to say. And I think it's a little bit less now, but years ago, yeah, people were just because German is good. No, 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 no. But yes, taking over countries and making and creating more living space for the Germans. And he had these great ideas. Right, but not good ideas, of course. But he dangled the carrots, and a lot of people went for it. By the time they realized it was too late. That's my analogy of that. But yeah, it was a very, very difficult time. A very difficult time.
I have a
Yeah.
question for you to kind of flip things around. How was your experience in the Jewish community as people came to know you and know your story? Did people have a hard time with you?
Are you talking about being in the States? Well, first of all, I have to tell them about my first experience in a synagogue. Before Henry left,
I wanted before you go there, did you let's tell us a little bit about Henry, your
yes,
late husband,
yes.
and then because that's what ultimately I'm assuming drew you into Judaism, or were you already being drawn for other reasons to Judaism? I'd love to know the path that led you to Judaism, and also let's learn more about your beloved Henry before
Mm.
we move into your Jewish life with
Okay,
Henry.
okay. So Henry was born in Poland to a German-speaking father, of course, Jewish, and the mother spoke some German, but the father spoke fluently German. They actually came from Galicia, from Liski, Poland, near Kolomea. I've done a lot of research and found out in the whole family, Henry's parents and grandparents and uncles, but the whole mishpacha went to Karlsruhe, Germany, and we Henry and I visited there years after, and they had a reunion. And I did a lot of research and found out where people lived, where his relatives lived, but it didn't reach to a lot of things, except that he did have a brother in Germany. His father got married in Germany, and to somebody she was probably a convert. She was from Germany, and he had a son, and the son had his bar mitzvah in Karlsruhe, Germany, in 1938, which is amazing. But there are records of that. And then he and the son and his mother went on a kinder transport to the UK. Henry's father went back to Poland, so I don't know. I don't know if they got divorced or whatever happened. Henry's father went to Poland, met Henry's mother, to be, and they got married. And Henry's father and mother had 3 children, Henry being the oldest one. And in 1943, well, first of all, they lived as Gentiles.
Ah,
He spoke. His name was Philip. He spoke German, and he fixed trucks for the German military. And they were very friendly with one another. They had no idea that Philip was Jewish. But then somebody, most likely a Polish neighbor who was starving, turned them in for whatever, a pound of butter or whatever, a piece of bread. And they came and they wanted to arrest him on a Friday night. And Philip did not want to leave. He clung to the banister of the house, of the hallway, and they beat him until he was unconscious. And he died of his injuries after that. And his mother was taken to Auschwitz. His 2 younger sisters perished. We don't know exactly how. And Henry went to the train station. Why to the train station? I don't know, but he thought maybe he can find something to eat. There's a restaurant. So he was looking for crumbs, anything at all. And then there was a peddler there who was selling things out of a suitcase, and he asked him where he lives, and he said no place. And he said, "Well, I'm going to go to this little farm. Maybe you can stay there. Do you want to come with me?" And Henry said, Yes, he was 10 years old at the time.
Mm.
And it was a small village, Viesnova Vesh is the name of it, only 5 houses. It's not even on the map, which we found out when we went back to Poland to do some research. But so he stayed with a brother and a sister in their early 20s. Neither of them were married, and they agreed to let Henry stay in their barn. They had a one-room house. That's all. That's all. We wouldn't call it. Wouldn't we call it a house? And he slept in the barn for a year and a half in the winter, summer, whatever, in with the horses. That's where he lived. And at the end of the war, there was still a group of people, Nazis, hunting for Jews, and they came to that house and asked, "Who is the kid?" Because they knew he couldn't be their son. They said, "He's the son of one of our cousins from Warsaw." And they said, "We're going to check this out and come back." And when Henry overheard that, he was about 12 then, he knew he had to leave. He took it serious. So there was a wedding in that Polish town, and when everybody was drinking, he took a horse and a big loaf of bread, went to the train station, no papers, no money, and rode under the train back to Radom, where he had lived with his family last. He rode on the axles of the train, got to Radom, went to the search station, because there were searches everywhere. They would announce people's names, who's looking for whom. That went on for many years. I remember that from Germany too. And he found out his mother survived Auschwitz, and he wanted, and that she's in Stuttgart, Germany, in a DP camp. So he said, "Well, I'm going to go there." They said, "No, you wait here. She has a job with Radio Free Europe, and she will be coming back and forth because she's looking for you." And he said, "I'm not waiting, I'm going." Then there was a soldier from the Mandated Palestine behind him, and he said, "I'm going to Stuttgart, so I'll just take him." So the two of them went to the train, and the soldier asked him, "How did you make it here?" He said, "I rode under the train." And then he said, "Well, do the same thing here." So he rode under the train, and the soldiers sat above in the passenger compartment. And when they crossed the border, the dogs sniffed him out, and so he had to come out from underneath. The guard saw him there, and then the guard was going to arrest him. However, the soldier saw that. He came out, and he had a pair of nylon stockings. So he bargained the stocking, gave the stockings to the guard, and the guard let Henry get back onto the train. So Hashem was there all the way for Henry to survive, for them to make it across, and then to be reunited with his mother, and eventually in 1949 coming to the United States. It's one hashgacha after another. And I have many pictures of the camp, the DP camp. He played the accordion. He played the harmonica. He ran. He competitive running, and he won here and he won there. He had a great time. They also took the people. They took the kids to the concerts and to gardens, and to have them to show them things again, to have them see a life. A lot of them are speaking different languages, and yet they did a great job. It was Women's American Art that was very instrumental in teaching and teaching trades, and also secular studies. A lot of people learned a lot of things there. So then his mother got remarried to somebody from the in the camp, a survivor. Henry was unhappy about that. He was still mourning his father, but then they went to Detroit, Michigan in 1949.
And that's powerful. And I have one quick question that's so
Yes,
powerful,
please. Yeah.
on how he actually made it out. Was this Polish family aware that he was Jewish, that housed him in the barn?
Yes, they were. And I
Wow.
have to also tell you that we went in 1988 to look for these people because we wanted them to be recognized as righteous Gentiles. And one of the first things that the woman says to Henry, don't tell anybody who you are. That was in 1988. And she had a sister, and she didn't want Henry to tell the sister. I don't speak Polish, but I could see how happy she was to see him. The brother already had passed away, and she called him her son, and she changed into another dress to us that they were both were both schmattes, but but she had something under the bed. It's still the one room house, and she made us a cup of tea in a chipped teapot. Right, I hadn't seen anything like that since the war, and it was still under communist rules, and it felt very much like the war had just stopped. And but she was so happy to see him, and then she had a son, and this Henry wanted the son to learn English and come to the States. That son wasn't interested in that, so we gave him some money, and we sent her a warm winter coat after we got back, because we wanted to do something for them. But we lost track of them. I couldn't write to them because they don't speak English, and Henry was not much of a writer, but it was nice that we got to see them, and it was Henry actually went because he thought he could find his father's tefillin and tallit, that his father showed him where he was hiding it in Radom, Poland.
Wow.
But we couldn't find it. Henry went with some other people, with some former neighbors, and But anyway, it was a very interesting trip.
Yeah, no, that's powerful. When I was in Poland last year, I was speaking across Europe, and I stopped in Poland, and I was taken by a couple of the priests to, sounds like exactly the same type of, it wasn't a city, it was a couple of houses.
Yes, right, yes.
And there was a family there. The house is no longer there. It was destroyed by the Nazis, but they saved a Jewish family, and one of the neighbors ratted them out.
Yeah, right, yes.
And they told the Jewish family to leave. The Jews got out, but unfortunately the family was killed, and the priest was there, and they're making it it's a site now that they've built, and they've sort of dedicated it and there's a big cross there, and it's a memorial site for the righteous Gentiles that saved a family, a Jewish family. So there were a few. There really were a few.
It was very risky, but there were people. Yes,
it was.
We read.
And it must have been powerful for Henry to visit his family. I mean, that was his family again, because I have a half brother whose mother was she lived in France, and she was saved by Catholic priests. She lived in underground in churches, and she went back in her later years, not later years, but midlife, and went and saw some of the priests again. And it was just one of the most powerful and redeeming encounters that she ever had in life. And that's great that they got to meet up again. It's so beautiful. Let's go just briefly now. We can go a little bit maybe back on to your question, AC, about Judaism, and how did you get drawn into Judaism? Was it through Henry? And was it when he left you started exploring? That's what it sounds like. And was this his wish that you would become Jewish, or was this path entirely on your own? You were drawn by Judaism. And what drew you about Judaism once you started exploring?
But Henry gave me a mezuzah necklace, and when I worked at the European Exchange Commission, some people asked me, "Is this a mezuzah?" And I said, yes. He said, so the man says, "Why don't you go to synagogue?" And I had been looking for synagogues, but there weren't any. but the the U.S. Army had a synagogue there, but it was in a hotel. One wouldn't know it unless somebody tells you. There's no sign or anything. So he told me where it is, and Henry already had left by that time. He had left. He went back to the United States.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to the synagogue, and from the minute I walked in, I felt connected. I felt this is where I belong. This is anything of course, I read the English. Anything I read made so much sense. Not what I had to do when it was mandatory, in the Christian religion. I could not. It just didn't resonate with me. But this felt real. I liked the chanting. I liked the idea. I liked an angel accompanying you when you leave the synagogue. I everything. I just felt I couldn't wait from one Shabbos to the next one, and so I went continuously, and I actually was thinking of converting, and but Henry did not want me to, so I didn't. So. And then when I went to synagogue every Friday night, and then I went home on the train. Of course, I couldn't keep a Shabbos or anything like that, but when I went to the States, when I finally got to the States, which is also another Hashgacha story, because we didn't have money for me to get a visa, and a Gentile Polish quadriplegic signed for me without knowing anything about me. He's right, because we didn't have the money to do it. Canada wouldn't allow me to come in because but my English was very good, not too good, never too good, but and they asked me if I knew somebody in the States, and I wasn't about to lie. So yeah, so when I told them about Henry, they figured I'm going to come to the States through Canada. They said no. And then this man who Henry worked with said to him, if you think she's that special, I will sponsor her. And he sponsored me, and I came to the United States, and I had a job 2 weeks after I got to this country. And I was never a burden to anybody, and I still not, thank God. So, yeah. So, but then I wanted to continue going to synagogue, and Henry says, young people don't go to synagogue, only old people go. So we never went except for the high holidays. Then then he wanted to get married. Well, his mother was very, very much against the whole thing. She did not want him to marry me, and she's threatened to kill herself if he marries me. Anyway, she relented and made the wedding in her house. But
where did you come to? Where were you right now in America?
In Detroit, Michigan, I rented a room. Henry found the room for me. A Russian Jewish family. I had a bedroom there, and I got a job, and I took the bus downtown, and I came back, and I just did what I needed to do, and then Henry. All of a sudden, he said, "What do you want to get married this week or next week?" So that was the proposal. So I said, "Next week." And so we thought we would just go to the rabbi. But then when he told his mother she wanted to make the wedding, she made the wedding in her house. And there were 12 people altogether. And I'm still in touch with 2 of them. Some of the most other people have passed away since then. But yeah, so and then I still wasn't Jewish. And I said I wanted to convert before we get married. He said, a piece of paper means nothing to me. To me, you're Jewish. And I bought into that. Unfortunately, I was still very obedient. So yeah. So the rabbi didn't know my maiden name was Hannah Meyer. He didn't ask.
So your birth name was Hannah?
Yeah. Yes. However, my given name was Hannah Laura. And when I first met Henry, he said, "What's your name?" I said, "Hannah Laura." He says, "No, you're not a Hannah Laura, you're a Hannah." Okay, fine. From the very, very beginning. And I never thought I would see this man again. So I dropped the Laura part, and I just kept the Hannah.
Oh, I thought
it's
that was your Jewish name. Wow.
it's both. So I
Yes, it's
kept like
both. Yeah, yeah.
it's both my so yes. So I still wasn't Jewish. However,
So the rabbi
I wanted
married
to
you.
be
Did
Jewish.
he know? Did he think you were Jewish, the rabbi?
Yes, he thought I was Jewish. He had no reason to not to doubt it, I guess. Then nobody said anything. Okay, and then I wanted to have a Jewish home. In spite of not being legally Jewish to me, kind of made sense. If Henry said I'm Jewish to him, that's good enough. So I started keeping kosher, reading up about it because I couldn't ask anybody because I was embarrassed to say that I don't know. So I started keeping kosher, had as a dishes. Henry's mother first got mad, and then she says, then she's going to keep kosher too, but she never did. So they were reformed. His parents were
Yeah.
reformed, but they were good people. She never could get over the fact that Henry married me. Then, and I couldn't really blame her. I said to Henry, I don't know how you could even think of marrying somebody like me from knowing the history and everything, but it was what it was. But we included. I made sure that his mother was included in everything that we did. Not that we had huge events, but we had a Shabbos dinner or the high holidays. Either she did it or I did more often as she got older. So yeah, we included her in everything. Sometimes it was pleasant, and other times it was not, and sometimes it was very bad. However, we gave her three beautiful grandchildren, and and she was happy with the girls. Of course, she was happy with the girls. And then I did keep on nudging. I heard rumors about if somebody's not legally Jewish, then the children are not legally Jewish and they can't do this and can't do that. And I finally talked him into, I really need to convert. This is, I don't want to keep on doing it like that. So he talked to the rabbi. Henry talked to the rabbi, not me. Henry went to Rabbi
The same
Berman.
rabbi, right? The same rabbi, or is this was a
No,
different rabbi
that was
completely?
a different rabbi, The
Which
first
which
rabbi didn't have
denomination now was it?
conservative,
Ah,
a
okay.
conservative rabbi, right? And the conservative rabbi said, "Well, if she's doing all of the," Henry told her that I want to become Jewish. I, I keep kosher. I want the children. I light Shabbos candles, and so those things I did, the basic things. And so the rabbi says, "So if she does all of that, I'll convert her." So
Mhm.
again, I didn't have classes. I wanted to learn, but he converted me. And then we went to the mikveh. The kids went to the mikveh too,
Yeah.
and so now I thought I'm Jewish.
Mhm.
And somewhat fast forward, my oldest daughter is ready to get married, and by then we had moved from Denver, from Detroit to Denver, and we were part of a conservative congregation with an Orthodox rabbi, like the community. I never talked about my background. I always felt ashamed. I didn't want to even bring it up. So he didn't know. Nobody knew that I wasn't born Jewish or anything. So, but before the kids got married, so the rabbi called us in, and he says, I hate to tell you, there's some talk about Hannah maybe not being legally Jewish or not being Jewish or being a convert. So he says to me, did you convert? I said, yes. There was the rabbi. I told the rabbi to go to mikvah. Yes, I went to the mikvah. Where was the mikvah? Was it the JCC? And the rabbi says, I can tell you right now, that's not a halachic conversion. I cannot marry the kids. Now, that was a shock to us. Henry was furious. We're in the wrong show. We need to go someplace else. We need this and that. And of course, my daughters thought they were Jewish. They were raised Jewish. All of a sudden, my son-in-law, who had converted, is the Jew, and my daughter is is the non-Jew. So,
Wow.
so yeah, okay, that was a big shock.
Yeah.
So after we kind of cooled down a little bit, I said, well, what do I need to do? Because I said, we're not going to leave and start all over. We're going to, do the best that we can do with this. And Henry, you are Jewish. You have no problem. So the rabbi said, if I can, we can go to the mikvah, then we can, convert that way. And Penny did. She was not happy not about not being Jewish after all these years going to Hebrew school and then going to conversion classes with her husband. Her husband is a mensch. He's a real mensch. I have to say that. Yeah, he davens every morning. He puts on tefillin. He's a wonderful guy. But yes, we went to the mikvah, and so did Penny, and then they got married, and Penny and Jesse have two children, and they're from, and they're each child. The daughter has four children, expecting a fifth one, and the son has five children, all observant. And it's
Wow.
beautiful to spend Shabbos with them. And it's beautiful. The oldest one had his bar mitzvah in Israel in May of last year at the Kotel.
Wow, mazel tov.
Wait,
Highlight of my life, right? Yes. So
wow. Where in Israel? Where do they live? Your
with
daughter and son-in-law. Sorry, and the
yeah,
children.
yeah. My daughter and son-in-law live in Denver in the summer and in Phoenix in the winter, just like I do. We do the same thing. And their daughter and husband and four children with another one on the way just made Aliyah in January. And then they are in Ramat Bet Shemesh.
Oh, Bet Shemesh. I know Bet
Yes.
Shemesh. I was there. Hi, I'm Sarah. We
Yeah.
met the other day. I'm Joe's wife.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
yeah, Bet
Yeah.
At
Shemesh is
the
a
at the Holocaust
yes,
memorial
thank you,
event,
Joe.
right?
Exactly.
Yes, right.
Bet
Yes.
Shemesh is a fabulous place.
Yes, it is. I was there, when we were there for the bar mitzvah. Yes, and I stayed with the Goldmans. You probably don't know the Goldmans, but we stayed at their place.
Uh,
Yeah, very, very nice. It was a beautiful experience. And then the son lives on the west side of Denver, uh, at a beautiful block of mostly observant Jews, and the kids, play with one another. Shabbos is like I would imagine like it could have been in the old shtetl in Europe. The kids run across the streets. They just play at each other's houses. It's visiting. It's people sitting outside and talking to each other. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing, and I enjoy every minute of it when I get to spend Shabbat with them. Beautiful, beautiful.
Well,
So yeah,
that's powerful. That's very powerful. I have two questions just because of time I want to ask, and then if
yeah.
anybody else has any before I ask my last two questions, which are more, there'll be more reflections but does anybody else have any comments or questions before I ask my last two?
I'm sorry that I came in late. I just wanted to say it is a powerful story. And Hannah, you are an incredible, a light, a what's the word? A glowing light, radiant warmth, and you set a beautiful example for all of us, I feel. And I am going to confess, I want to find out how I can spend one of these amazing Shabboses with your family.
Oh yes, you would love it. You would love it. Yeah, it's beautiful. It's just so enriching and so calming and so just everything. It's just yeah.
Yeah.
I think Hashem knew all along where I need to be, and He just guided me along the way because I never would have found or even know that this exists. We had a Hachnachas Sefer Torah made.
Oh, wow.
And we, when even the Gentiles came out because it was in the truck and the singing and the dancing and everybody was clapping. Who has that kind of stuff? Who has that? And somebody who came from a background like me, wow. I would have pinched myself. Is this real? So, but I'm very, very pleased. It's not me. It's Hashem guiding me, because I wouldn't even have known how to get there. But I'm so grateful, and I'm blessed with beautiful, beautiful things in my life. Not everything. I have some tourists too, like we all do, but I concentrate on the good, and I enjoy my life, and I love where I'm at,
Thank
even that
you.
I'm 89 and a half.
Wow.
It's still good. It's still, life is still good. And I'm
Wow.
thankful for every day. Modiani every morning. So
Ah,
I enjoy
okay.
it. Yes.
That's the gratitude prayer, and you're anticipating my last question. You're So we'll come back to that. AC, you had a question or an insight or a reflection.
I was curious if you've ever met anyone else with a story like yours. Given, it's easier to connect with people and like people through the internet and everything, but through a book, or you ever discovered anyone who like, came from the world you came from and into the Jewish world?
I haven't actually,
Hmm.
uh, but I met a woman rabbi in Phoenix, but only very briefly. I was part of a Holocaust program there, and she came from Germany. She converted, and she's a rabbi. But I,
Hmm.
I don't know her story. She's younger, so she probably is not involved with war stories like that. Because I remember the war being the ongoing war, actually. But no, when I go back to Phoenix, I will look her up, because we were interested in each other's stories. But I know other converts, but nobody had such a turbulent childhood. Very few people, even not converts, have that, because if I talk with other people from Germany that grew up around that same time, oh yeah, well, everybody got spanked. Yeah, yeah, yes, people were strict, but not that kind of, not that cruelty. I don't think that was normal. I don't think that was the norm. So yeah, but I survived. I'm here.
Hmm. Yeah. Uh, and anybody else before I continue? Okay. Speaking of the cruelty from your father, you went back to visit him when he was dying.
Yes.
And my question to you, one is why, and two is, how did you, when you were in his presence, obviously the past abuse was still a reality. How did you engage with him? Where is your heart? Where is your mind? He didn't confess, he didn't repent. What was your engagement with him in
Yeah,
his last
actually,
hours or days? Yeah.
very little, because he didn't want us to talk about anything other than him.
Hmm.
He got mad because I think somebody was having a conversation. He asked us to leave if we're going to have other conversations.
Mhm.
So, but I felt for him, because I felt like he was suffering, and I wanted to help. And I don't. It was hard. I felt like I was choking as well when he was choking.
Wow.
Yeah, I can't explain. I can't explain it. I,
Yeah.
years earlier, I bought him when I worked at the European Exchange Commission in the men's department. I bought him a sweater vest, and it was maybe 2, 3 sizes too big. To me, I was already 18 years old. To me, he was a giant. He was a small man, 5'7". It didn't fit him at all. So in my mind, I think that's pretty strange. One can tell that if something is that much too big, but in my mind, he was huge,
Hmm.
because I was afraid of him. Perhaps, I don't know. But anyway, yeah. No, only one time did I tell him that he embarrassed me. Did I? Because when my youngest daughter got married, they came to the wedding to Denver, and when they were dancing the horror, my father was beating people, was hitting them. And the next morning in the kitchen, I told him that he really embarrassed him. He had no right to do that, and he was very upset with me. I should have not said anything to him about anything in front of other people. They were all family. They all were there. They all says all the same thing. And he didn't talk to me for a long time. And I said to him, "You should be proud of me. Finally, I can stand up to you. All of these years, I could not." So that was the only time I ever said anything to defend myself, but I felt that I had to.
Wow. Well,
Yeah.
no, I have to say, you have a heart that is remarkable. And my last question, I guess, woven into this, what you just spoke about is, and you may not be able to express it in words, but you're in your life, you're living it. How, after what you've seen, what you've experienced, what you know, and what we all know that happened in the Holocaust, how do you still live? With what you've gone through, with such hope, with such light, with such kindness, with such compassion, and with such a beautifully loving heart. This is where we're going to leave all calling you Rabbi when you give us insight into this, because you'll be our teacher. How did you cultivate this? Because we all need more of this in life.
It's just the gratitude where I'm at. And there's so many people that are much more learned in Judaism and are much more connected and don't have anything near the kind of nachas that I have. So I'm so appreciative, and I want to give wherever I can give, wherever I can make a difference, especially where children are concerned. I have a very soft spot for children. And even if they're not my grandchildren or great grandchildren, I love little ones because I didn't have that kind of love. Or so it makes me feel good just to do a little something, even if it's a small little gift for a child or a little game or anything, and in enjoying and feeling and being with my family makes me feel good. And if I can inspire other people, I'm more than happy to do that. It gives me a purpose at this stage of my life. As we get older, my hearing is not so good, my sight is not so good. I could fetch a lot about lots of things, but I choose not to. I choose doing the things that give me joy and pleasure, and I want to keep on doing that for as long as Hashem wants me here. So yeah, and I'm just thankful that I have the opportunity to do that.
No,
Uh,
L'chaim. And I'm going to end with where I began when I was discussing your name at the beginning, that your name means Chana is it has to do with giving, but it's different from Natan, which is to give. We have other words for giving. The unique aspect of your name is this idea of graceful and gracious giving. And your name is your way. You live that way of gracious giving. You have a beautiful heart, and we are all blessed to have learned from you today. And I look forward when I come back into this to Colorado, that we'll all get together. You'll spend the Shabbos with us. We'll bring you down to Trinidad, and you'll bless
Baruch
the
Hashem,
community
Baruch
there.
Hashem.
We'll
Yes.
go to lunch. And,
Uh-huh.
I just want you to know I have a friend in Germany, she's going to be 89, 88 or 89 this September.
That's what I'm going to
I
be,
visit her
90.
yes,
Okay.
exactly. No, I wish I could put you two together. Her
Yeah,
father, in her words, she's German, her
yeah.
father was a good Nazi, meaning a real cretin. a real cruel human being.
Oy, oy, oy.
And she watched her friend across the street, a Jewish friend, be dragged away by the Nazis, and she never saw her again, the whole family. And you
Oy,
know what she did in her youth? She became a Jewish defender. She defends the Jews to this day at 88. That's how we met at a Jewish at a Jewish rally. She and a couple of her friends devote a big chunk of their life
wow,
to
wow.
bringing redemption to the horrible history. And if we only had more saints like that in the world, it would be a much better place. So thank you, Hannah, for
Amen.
your life and for your time with us tonight. And I really, our families are going to get together when I come back. And
Thank you,
Where are
thank
you?
you. Thank
well,
you
I'm
Where
for
right
are
now.
you?
I'm in Utah.
Oh,
you.
I'm
You're
in
in Utah?
Utah.
Yeah, you're in
Yeah.
Utah. Okay.
Yeah, I'm teaching out here for a little bit, and then I'll come back. I'll be gone for a chunk of the summer in Europe again, teaching, but I'll be back. I'll be back, and we'll get together. So
and
I
when are
look,
you coming to Vegas?
New
Las Vegas.
Mexico or Nevada.
New Mexico, of course, the
Just
original.
call me. Yes,
All
call
right.
me and I'll come.
Put me on
Wherever,
the
call me
calendar.
and I'll come.
Calendar.
Happy to come.
Everybody
Okay.
should come. All you guys should come. Come down
Yes,
for a
let's
field
do
trip.
it. I'll call you. I'll